Good morning, or afternoon, or evening. It's the Monday Morning Show. Today is July 19th, 2017. I'm Ken LaSalle from kenlasalle.com, and I'm not including the theme song this morning, afternoon, evening, whatever, because I'm a little really tired, and just don't have the energy to match that energy. Thank you very much, Josh Woodward. Anyway, today I'd like to try something a bit different. A mere 2 hours ago, I laid down the final words in the first draft of my new novel, Little Mike. I would like to talk about that in today's podcast. Not what the book is about, you'll hear enough about that later, but more about what it feels like to write a novel and finish a novel. Strange as it might seem, I've written 37 books. No kidding, 37. I counted them just now, and it's pretty unbelievable. Or at least, I think so. I've been writing for years, and not all of these titles are available for purchase because, believe it or not, there are just some books that I decided weren't up to snuff. But not Little Mike. I began writing Little Mike about 1.5 years ago. I had no idea what the book would be, but the core concepts, as I first understood them, intrigued me. My process involves writing things down as they come to me. I don't censor myself. I don't worry, is this any good or not? That's for later. I just write things down that intrigue me, ideas that I believe are worth noting. Eventually, I knew what Little Mike would involve, so I knew when an idea was related or not, and lumped them together. Now, at this point, I had no idea exactly what I'd be writing. I thought the end product would be funny and weird and perverse. And I was right in a way, but it's also meaningful and heartfelt. And as much as I hate to use the word important, keep in mind that what I mean is that it's important to me. And my hope is that my readers will find it important as well. I actually didn't know what Little Mike was really about until just a few days ago, until I was about 14,000 words away from finishing the novel. I'll get more into that in a minute, but let me just say that at its core, Little Mike is very much about the death of innocence. A strange topic, perhaps, for a man in his 50s. You might not understand why this was so important unless you've been a man in his 50s, so let me get into that just a bit. When I talk about the death of innocence, I'm not talking about children. I'm not talking about how children today must internalize all sorts of violent and lurid and perverse images. Children from my day, a long time ago, had to witness. True, that's a problem, but what I'm talking about with the death of innocence is more akin to the death of hope. Do you remember hope? Just a decade ago, the United States was positively in love with hope, and we were in love with change. Barack Obama convinced us of the power of hope and change. But I think after a few years of the Obama administration had passed, and we didn't get the kind of hope and change we thought would magically appear, we grew cynical about hope and change. You see, the power of hope doesn't come from magic. Hoping doesn't magically change things. Hope is the fuel that powers the engine of change. Hope has the potential to help create wonderful advances such as the social equality that came from the hope of the 60s, or the breakthroughs that created the Renaissance and the Age of Enlightenment. And that's the last time I'm going to say those. That took like 10 takes just to get those words right. I'm so tired. Anyway, hope did not create those changes. It moved people towards those changes. And then recently, an orange con artist came along and convinced a great deal of us that hope was worthless. He twisted our nation's narrative against hope. And if you think about our last election, it was basically a referendum against hope and change. Clinton ran away from change, and Trump dumped hope. But what do you get without either? Stagnation, defeat, despair. That's what I mean by the death of hope. The first day I sat down to write Little Mike, I knew I would be writing it seat of the pants style. This is why I didn't fully understand what I was writing until I was nearly finished. The difference between outlining and writing pants style, why I would choose one over another, is important to understand. I love outlining books, especially those that involve tight storylines. I think it's essential. But Little Mike always felt like a book that was coming from someplace I didn't quite understand, and I didn't want to squelch that. I like writing pants style when there's a story coming out of me organically. I don't try to analyze it, because that way leads to failure. By this time in my writing career, I've learned to trust whatever process is happening in my subconscious, to trust that I actually know what I'm doing. I'm 51 years old. It's taken me that long to trust myself. As I laid down the final lines and understood that my work was finished, as much as I hate to admit this, I began to cry. I always cry at least a little bit when I finish a novel. I'm leaving these characters that I have grown to love. That's one reason. The other reason is that I'm so exhausted. I wrote Little Mike in 6 weeks through many 5,000-word days and 6,000-word days, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, all day long. I cannot convey how painful that gets to be sometimes. Add to that my very bad habit of clenching up my body when I really get into my writing. I am just exhausted. So what happens now? Now, I put Little Mike into a virtual drawer and forget about it for a while. In about a week or so, I'll begin recording the audiobook version of Work of Art, Joseph's Flowers, for that book's October release. When I do pull out Little Mike, I'll work my way through my rewrites. Rewrites, for me, are rather involved because that is the point when I literally add color. No kidding, I write so fast that I can't afford to include such details as colors and clothes and general set dressing. Rather than hold myself up, which stifles my creativity, I've learned to leave all of that for the rewrites. Again, 51 years old. I've had to learn all of this over the years. Nobody teaches you what your process is going to be. You, as the writer, or I, as the writer, have to learn it for yourself. And then, of course, after that, you've got editing and more editing, polishing it up, getting it ready for release. You can probably expect to see Little Mike sometime next year. I'm not even going to bother sending this out to agents or publishers because, in my experience, this isn't the kind of book publishers are interested in anymore. They want things simple and well-defined, and especially well-marketable. I had an agent once who was always saying, write a book like this book, and then she'd give me the title of some popular book. Heaven forbid writers show any actual creativity, you know? One of the publishers I used to work with now only publishes sexy romance books. Another one doesn't even really know what they want to publish. This is why I've started this period of self-publishing, because it allows me to write complicated, contradictory, unusual work that I believe my readers will really enjoy and, more importantly, get a lot out of. I want to be remembered as a good writer, someone who was true to his artistic style and his inspiration, and not just someone who writes books like some other author writes. If you would like to help support my work, please look me up on Amazon, where I have all sorts of titles available, with many more coming soon. Until next time, be good to yourself, be kind to others, and let's make this world a better place.